Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a fascinating new study about China's economy. It's called When the Abundance Ends by Fang Wang, Qi Shen, and Yang Sai. This paper looks at how China's past economic boom was powered by demographics and why that era might now be coming to an end. If you want to understand China's future, stick around because this is about much more than just numbers.
Over the past 4 decades, China has experienced what the authors call an age of abundance. Think about it, hundreds of millions lifted out of poverty, booming exports, new highways, skyscrapers, smartphones, and luxury goods. But here's the twist. That prosperity was fueled by a demographic dividend, a large, young workforce with relatively few dependents. This gave China an economic surplus. People were producing more than they consumed. Now, this study asks, what happens when that surplus shrinks or disappears?
The research question is simple but powerful. How are economic behaviors and demographic shifts reshaping China's life cycle surplus? Life cycle surplus basically means the balance between what people earn through labor and what they consume at different ages. If income is higher than consumption, society has a surplus. If consumption grows faster, the surplus shrinks. So the authors want to know, has China's demographic fortune run out? And what does that mean for its economy and politics?
To answer this, the researchers use something called the National Transfer Accounts Framework, or NTA for short. Here's how it works. First, they collect data from household surveys and official statistics to see how much people earn and consume at each age. Then they adjust those numbers to match national accounts, so the micro data lines up with the macro economy. Finally, they combine this with population data, age structures, birth rates, and aging trends to estimate the total national surplus. This lets them compare China's situation in the 2000s with the 2010s and then project forward into the 2030s and 2050s.
So what did they find? Let's break it into 3 key periods. First, the 2000s, the age of abundance. GDP was growing over 10% a year. Labor income nearly tripled. Consumption grew too, but much more slowly. Result, a giant national surplus amplified by a huge working age population. Second, the 2010s, the turning point. Growth slowed, income only doubled instead of tripling, but consumption shot up, especially among young adults, kids, and the elderly. Housing costs, luxury spending, and healthcare surged. By 2018, China's aggregate surplus had shrunk by more than 60% compared to just 4 years earlier. And third, the future, the projected deficit. If 2018 patterns continue, China's surplus could vanish by the early 2030s. By 2050, the country could actually run a national deficit of 2.4 trillion RMB, meaning consumption outstrips production. The driver? Population aging. By 2050, nearly 30% of Chinese will be 65 or older.
What does this mean? The end of the demographic dividend brings big challenges. Pension and healthcare costs will soar. Government revenue may not keep up, and families will face higher dependency burdens. But the authors also stress that this isn't pure doom and gloom. Productivity improvements, education, technology, and policy reforms could ease the pressure. In fact, the same way China turned its population from a burden into a fortune in the 1980s, smart institutions could turn aging into a new opportunity.
So when the abundance ends, what comes next? That's the big question for China and for the world economy. This paper reminds us that demographics and economics are deeply linked, but policy and innovation matter just as much. What do you think? Will China find a way to manage its aging challenge, or will the shrinking surplus slow its rise? Let me know in the comments below.